We're gonna do the thing. I call to order this meeting of the Park City Board of Education. We will begin with the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first up on the agenda, we've got our work session, and we're gonna hear about Title IX and athletics from Michael Tenorisa.
Righty, good afternoon, President Reed and members of the board. My name is Michael Santa Rosa. I'm the Title IX coordinator here at the Park City School District. I'm here today because there's a law here in the state of Utah, 53G-6-101, entitled Report Action Plan. And it's a newer law here in Utah, and it requires at the beginning of each academic year that the athletic director or another administrator of each school shall report to the school's local governing board a number of things. I'm actually standing in for Mr. Sheets today. He's at a statewide athletic director event. So I'm here today just to show you the number and type of interscholastic sports available at the Park City High School, categorized by gender designation, the number of students competing in the gender designated interscholastic sport at the school, categorized by gender, the amount of spending that the school devotes to each gender designated interscholastic sport at the school, categorized by gender, and a comparison and evaluation of designated practice and game locations in the gender designated interscholastic sports, and any information regarding the school's efforts in compliance with Title IX. Also, if there's a discrepancy between male designated and female designated sports of 10% or greater, an action plan that the school develops to address the discrepancy. So I don't know if you all have a copy of the numbers on the screen. I have a hard copy if that would be helpful. I can pass around.
It's in the agenda.
It's in the agenda.
Oh, okay, excellent. So just some things to note. These numbers here are consistent with last year's data and proportions. The coach's pay was increased this year. Not all coaching positions were filled. And the male and female teams have the same number of coaching positions for each sport. I've been told that the new Treasure Sports Complex will be impactful for both softball and baseball. There will be more opportunities for home games and practices and less travel time to help the students. There will also be 8 outdoor tennis courts, and there will be 3 turf rectangles, which will allow more practice time and options for other sports as well. And in terms of the discrepancy, there's no discrepancy between male designated, which is 47.6%, and female designated 52.4% sports. Currently, there's a 4.8% in favor of female sports at Park City High School. Any questions at this time?
I do. I have a quick question. I don't see baseball under here for spring or fall.
You didn't see baseball?
Yeah.
It's at the very bottom, ma'am. It's actually under co-ed, mixed co-ed.
Okay.
Yes. Along with football and then also cheerleading. And Jamie Sheets, as you all know, is definitely the subject matter expert. I can absolutely take any questions back to him. He's always available for any questions as well to the board.
You said not all coaching positions are filled?
Yes, sir.
What is the impact of that on the student athletes?
I don't think I honestly can't speak to that. I haven't been told of any impact. Mr. Sheets has assured me that there's coaches definitely in every sport for each gender. They just don't have all slots filled. They have some other opportunities for more coaches if necessary on certain sports. I can't tell you today what those sports are. But we could definitely give you that information.
Yeah, interesting.
And sometimes they're out of season and they don't fill it until they get closer to season. That may be the case for these particular positions that are still making that.
Question, it looks like some of the coach salaries look like they're standardized for male to female,
Mhm.
track and field, for example, but others are not. Is that
Yes.
something that is separated out from track and field, or are they gonna be standardized for other sports?
It's my understanding that it's based on years of experience. So you might have a teacher or a coach starting at year 1 versus a seasoned coach at year 10 plus.
Then you said coaching salaries have gone up. Is that just normal increases? Is it reflecting an ability to hire coaches? Like what's the?
I think that was along with the lines of all the district pay increases.
So a year ago, so in 24, they were increased.
Yeah.
For 25, they were increased 22%.
Right.
To make up for that year, the 6%.
Yeah.
And now they're tied to whatever the cost of living adjustment is given to other employees.
So
Coaches
they
as
just
well
go
as
with
second.
anyone else's, okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great year. Thank you much.
And next up, we've got the early learning.
Are you free today?
The Northern area.
Hi. Thanks for having us. So I think Tricia's getting the slides up for the photos. Thanks, Tricia. Love our new logos, so we use them every opportunity we can. So today, we're presenting the early learning plan for the 25-26 school year. I'm Amy Jenkins, the Executive Director of Teaching and Learning. I'm Katie McGinn, the Literacy Specialist.
And John Hall, the math specialist.
There you go. The early learning plan is something that we're required to do through the state of Utah, follows a whole bunch of laws and things like that. You'll see on the next slide. Basically, we want to always ensure that our earliest learners are reaching appropriate benchmarks in reading and math. So this applies to our K-3 students. We test them 3 times a year in reading and math using Acadians, formerly known as DIBELS, if you were going through elementary school when my child was there. So parents receive that information when they go to parent-teacher conferences. Our first window for Acadians opens on Monday. So we screen all of the students depending on the K-3 situation. And if they're in 4th and 5th grade, sometimes we pick them up if they're still not making adequate progress. If they are not making progress during that benchmark period, then they are progress monitored in between those 2 tests. So we test again in December. Between August and in December, teachers will check in on those same assessments. Sometimes weekly if the student is in intensive, needs intensive support. Sometimes it's just twice a month if they need less support, just to make sure that they're on track to meet that next benchmark that's set in December. So all of those things are set by the state, so we just follow the same windows and things like that. The purpose of the plan that we're presenting to you today really is to make sure that we're focusing on areas where we can improve teacher expertise, improve their classroom instruction, and also then obviously improve those student outcomes. So next slide. So during the early learning plan, we also have to make a couple of assurances. We'll get into kind of the goals and things like that in just a second. So you'll see up there that when we submitted our plan to the state in June, we had to make sure that we were in alignment with all of the requirements of the plan. One of the newest pieces of the early learning plan is that we are required to make an assurance that we adopted high quality instructional materials in literacy. Senate Bill 127 was passed in 2022. And as you know, we did our K-3 literacy adoption May of 2024. We followed that up with another adoption last year in May of 2025 for grades 4 through 8. So we've got a very, I would say, high quality instructional program, K-8 now in our ELA or reading classes. So that's something I think we're really proud of. Every year we have to submit our goal attainment survey. We did our last year's on June 5th. We'll submit the new one on before the deadline of July 15th, as it's stated there. And then today we're presenting to you the outcomes of last year's plan and then what our new plan is. So next slide. All right, so this is our
literacy goal from last year. It's kind of wordy because we have to say, not only what are we addressing? It's got all the things there. We have to also, explain how we, are going to address that at the teacher level for student outcomes. So just to pick out the highlights in there, our goal was around first grade fluency. So that is how fast and accurately students can read. At every grade level, they need to read a certain number of words per minute, accurately and fluently. That means that without stumbling or having to decode word by word. And so looking at our past data, and we always go back about 3 or 4 years in our Acadians data, we do an analysis, and we had set a goal to increase our school score from the middle of year to end of year by 8%. You'll see our actual down there. We started at 61% and we ended at 63%. We did not meet our 8% goal. What we did do, however, is we want to highlight, we did have a huge implementation last year, right? We changed out 95% for phonics, tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 on our K3 teachers, and implemented Great Minds, Wit, and Wisdom. And so obviously our teachers were learning new tools, new materials, things like that. So instead of having an implementation dip, I feel like a 2% gain is pretty positive. So we didn't lose ground. The 8% really was based on the year prior. That is what we had achieved. So we are hoping to hold steady, if you will. Unfortunately, as you can see there, we went up just 2%. Next one.
Question.
Oh, sure. Oh, do you want to go back to that previous slide?
It's a generic question. So
Perfect.
we opened up the classrooms to out of district area students. And how is that impacting the class size? And as a result of that, do you anticipate that will influence the performance this year? I don't know, I'm asking.
You know what, if you were to ask that question last year with implementing new materials, I think it would be a big impact. Bigger class, slightly larger class sizes. These are not, we're saying, what, 23? I think Lindsay's gonna cover that.
Large for Park City.
Right, we understand that we are coming off of some very small class sizes or cohorts. So I would say if you're a classroom teacher trying to teach new materials with more students, that's difficult. Coming in this year with 1 year behind us, a familiarity with the programs, the systems are in place, the support systems are in place, I don't think we're gonna see a big impact. We'll obviously monitor that with our Acadians data at the beginning of this year. And then when we see our data come out at the middle of the year, we want to make sure that we're not, again, we have historical data from many years back. We can track and see our growth from beginning to middle and make sure we're not dipping anywhere. And if we are, we can, deploy the right resources and support. So I feel like we're set up well in our system to, address any classroom needs, whether it's a size related issue or just learning diversity issues. So I'm not too concerned about it.
Okay, so then when we sit here this time next year and we're still at 2%, then we could analyze why we're still at 2%.
I think that's where we dig in, and we'll talk about what goals we're setting now, so that we can really analyze where we see the growth in our programs. Because we analyze every sub-test that comes out of Acadians, not just a composite score where they kind of take all of those sub-tests and say, this is overall how the child is doing. So when we dig into each one, we can say, okay, we know that this is this part of the core phonics program. So let's make sure we've got the right support, right? We're checking in on that classroom instruction, making sure the teacher feels confident in what they're doing and things like that. So I think that we have, again, the systems not only to deploy the instruction, but also to support the learning of the instruction.
And will there be any ideas or support mid-year if we see we're falling behind? Not to blame anybody, but to bring the support where it's needed. If we see, well, maybe 2 points, we're 10 points below where we should be.
Oh, yeah.
So we'll hear about it. We won't. Right. I don't know how this works.
We're happy to. We don't typically provide mid-year. It's kind of ebbs and flows as far as what we present to the board, but we're happy to present after the mid-year data comes in. We're happy to kind of come back and do a comparative so you can see, so that you can also track it with us. I think one of the things that we committed to with the K3 materials adoption was that we would commit to 3 years of professional implementation coaching from the people who write the curriculum. So that we're learning alongside teachers, so that when they leave after spending a day with us or whatever, we can take our coaches, our literacy specialists, myself, and deploy into those classrooms or deploy to the principals into those classrooms to make sure that the teachers have what they
It just feels like this is a pivotal year opening up the district. So I think we need to keep track of that as a result, so we're not doing something negative.
Yeah, no. I think we're all, and we'll talk about our, like I said, we'll talk about our current goals, both in the strategic plan and at the state level, and where we are with those, and then we can kind of compare where we have been, where we are going, and then when we can check in again, I'm sure. And so,
I think it's important to note, historically, you would see what Amy refers to as an implementation dip. Anytime you adopt any new curriculum, especially multiple grade levels, teachers are learning the curriculum and implementing at the same time. And we actually saw a 2% gain versus loss in terms of kids reaching this point.
How do, you might have just hinted at this, but I'd be interested to know how these targets compare to state and national.
yeah, so we haven't received the state rankings yet. Last year, we were 9th in the state for our overall performance in K-3 literacy specifically. So I think as a district, that's something we were very proud of at the time. As you know, our RISE data, we had some schools that were ranked very highly in the trail side came up in the top, I'm not remembering the number, but top 5, of the state. So I feel like our academic programs at the elementary schools are only continuing to improve, and we see really strong numbers. So we should.
I would love to see those things highlighted, because that's our main, that's what we do here, is educate people.
Yeah.
So what we want to hear is how we're performing in that education.
Yeah, we're happy to.
So we're all very proud and celebrating what you're doing.
The state will release that data in October is what's
So
being told.
Okay.
And then we can report at the October meeting.
Great.
Yeah, happy to be there.
I just sort of a high level feedback, anecdotal question of like, how are the teachers appreciating using describe whatever they're with how's that new curriculum going
Right, how's
for
it
the
going?
educators?
So it's interesting, I don't have that right here in front of us, but we did send out a year 1 survey at the end in the spring last year. Katie and I are reworking our literacy plan around that feedback. And basically, what do you need more of? What landed? How do you feel differently about these things? So we did do that survey, happy to share that with you guys as well. But that was important to us too. Part of what we evaluate is not just what students are able to do with these materials, but is it changing the mindsets and the beliefs of the teachers around these materials? Do they believe that they're going to work? And then do they have the knowledge and skills to teach what's in there? And that 2 years of letters training that the state provided for our K-3 teachers was part of that. So they should have the skills and knowledge to be able to do those things. Now we're just putting it together. And so we feel like we are saying we're in year 1.5, because last year was a big lift with 2 new programs and things like that. So we're really looking at some teacher targets or teacher action targets as a ending year 1 of implementation and starting to look down the road to what should year 2 start to look like in classrooms. So I feel like we've got feedback from them, input, but we also have a really nice plan moving forward, supporting them. Want to talk math for a second? Okay, this guy's gonna like nudge me every time I say
Advanced
something.
quantity discrimination.
Thank you. I practiced that. I'm big on that. So last year, again, we set a goal in math, in addition to the one with literacy, again, focusing on 1st grade students. We wanted to make sure that they were improving on the subtest that is advanced quantity discrimination. John was nice enough to do the, do you remember VH1's pop-up video? That's what I think John's slideshows are like.
That's a Google translation.
So AQD stands for comparing 2 numbers and identifying which one is greater. So the students have to do that very quickly. It's a time test. And so we were hoping to see a 5% increase from beginning to end of year by doing these things, such as providing teachers with those evidence-based practices to develop their understanding in, all these things. The reality is this was also 1st grade. The reality is we did not. We wished we had the time with the 1st grade teachers to really dive into their mathematical professional learning. Literacy really took all of our time. And so we saw an increase, that's great, because we really didn't, we had them on cruise control. We have a great math program right now. The teachers and the interventionists still provide math, it supports and things like that. So we didn't take anything away. We just didn't add anything additional. So that's changing this year. All right, next slide.
I think, yeah, it would be super interesting to see how that compares.
For sure.
Side.
For sure, and absolutely, and like I said, I have some information back to, for example, our core literacy composite score across the board. Kindergartners were 81% proficient, first graders were 66%, second graders were 78%, third graders were 86%. Now that is both blue and green combined, because Katie's going to talk to you about rural in just a second. In math, kindergarten was 78%, first grade was 68%, second grade was 85%, and third grade was 77%. The state gives us a baseline of 60%. If we fall below 60% in any of those grade levels, they provide additional state provided support. We don't ever typically fall below 60%. So that'll just kind of reassure you, like, we are doing well. We want the majority of our students green or blue, because that tells us they're at lower risk for learning, falling behind in the future. So, okay, take it away, Ms. McGinn.
Okay, so this year's early learning plan does not have literacy goals since Senate Bill 127 in 2022. The goals have mainly focused on literacy goals, but this year they've turned to math goals. And they did that because the state has a third grade goal for the whole state, that the state will be at 70% reading on grade level by 2027. So reading on grade level in our world would be an Acadians blue. There's a cut score for Acadian. So we are working with the second graders now, where they will be in third grade, and the goal is 70%. So here are the two goals. So the USBE literacy goal is by June of 2027, 70% or more third grade students will be reading on grade level. In 2023-24, that was 65%, and last year was 69%. So that's just blue. The Park City School District strategic goal, which was written before the state did the local goal, is by 2028, 90% of our third grade students will reach or exceed benchmark on Acadians, which is the green and blue. So the state goal is just blue. Our district goal is green and blue. And we were at 81% last year, and we're at 86% this year. So here are some of our action steps, literacy action steps. We have so much going on with literacy. So grades K through 3, we are in year 2 of implementation, which we purchased last year. We started with 95% group. We have a tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 program. So they are all aligned all through. We're beginning our testing next week to see where they fall. The system's really working. It's really cool because in tier 1, you'll see what the students are working on in grade 2, and you'll see that growth in their tier 2. So it's working. The system
For the non-education folks, can you explain tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3?
Oh my gosh. Amy said there'd be no questions.
People.
She
Buy lunch tomorrow.
So tier 1 would be for the whole class, what they're getting the whole class. There's the core phonics program, which is all of tier 1. After our Acadian scores come out, we see the reds and yellows and greens and blues and the gaps in their practice. They will get another test called PSI, and that will put them in small groups for their tier 2. So it's reinforcing things they're missing.
Familiar with like Hawk 30, Moose 30, their intervention time at the elementary schools. And we call them the binders. You may have heard those words. That's what the tier 2 program is. We just happen to put the materials in binders because they're easy to transport around the building and keep track of everything. So that tier 2 system is very mobile, very fluid, because you want kids in and out as quickly as possible. So as soon as they show that they're ready to move on, we move them on. And it's a sequential system. So they place in, and then they do 3 cycles, and then they test out, and they go somewhere else. So it's very fluid, as a tier 2 should be.
Then the tier 3 program is called RAT. And that's an online program with the interventionist or SPED. And it's all the same language, all the same directions, everything's the same in 1, 2, and 3. So the cognitive load on the students is not about learning directions or understanding words, it's just about the decoding. And then we did K through 3 Wit and Wisdom, which is the knowledge program we are using for comprehension. Grades 4 through 8 are in year 1 of implementation, and we are using arts and letters for their core tier 1 language arts program, which is Wit and Wisdom 2.0. It's the same company. It's just their updated version of Wit and Wisdom. And then 95% is used in 4th and 5th with the interventionists. And we've just introduced it to ECHR. ECHR has a teacher that can do the RAC program of tier 3 and their time and some of our support classes will have tier 2, the binders. They will also be using the binders. So we have a lot going on.
The literacy, go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, I'm
No.
sorry about.
You probably against the.
Well, I don't know about that. Does AI enter into this curriculum, and if so, where?
So go back one screen for me. In the two core programs that we have there, 95%, which is going to be the phonics, phonemic awareness side, the decoding side, and then the Wit and Wisdom and or arts and letters, which is the knowledge building side of things, there is not. It actually is not heavily digital at all. It really is children reading books, discussing, analyzing artwork, things like that. It is very much a social interactive experience. The only place that AI I can speak to that comes into the literacy world is we did, and I didn't put it up here because it's not part of our core program. We did approve and adopt Amira, which is an early interactive software for students that they can read a story out loud. And Amira is an avatar, a character, and she listens. And if the student stumbles over a word or doesn't decode it correctly, it actually reinforces and reteaches it in that moment. So there is an AI component in the background of that program, but for literacy, I think that would be the only thing that would apply.
Oh, I'm just curious, who's that teacher at ECHR that you said is the?
Rap training.
Oh, Corinne Thomas, in SPED. She has the RAP training.
All right, now we get to talk about the present, right? So our 25-26 goals, and just to get things going, the state, we have to have the state look at our plan before we submit it to you. And there are specific guidelines and processes that we have to follow. For example, we just can't randomly look at and just choose a goal. The state requires that we look at the last 3 years of data, so you can see up there, and we have 4 years of data, but just to show you where we were 4 years ago, for goal number 1 is to increase the percentage of 3rd grade students in computation. In computation, that one's pretty easy to understand, unlike the previous one. It's basically performing math operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, division with base 10 numbers, not with fractions. So if you go back to 21, 22, that was just a year after COVID. Beginning of the year was 50, and we didn't make any progress moving the kids that year. But take a look at the next 3 years. We're starting at higher levels of proficiency, right? 55, and then 61, and then 69 for 24, 25. So it's kind of hard to when you're starting so high, to set the goal for the end of the year to be, 10 points higher, 5 points higher. So when we look at the last 3 years of data, we have a +3, a +5, and then a -2, but I'm not going to fault the -2 too much because we started at 69% and 67%. It's even higher than the end of year average or the end of year percentage from the year before. But still the same. That's the process that we go through. And then the state says, look, do that process, take the 3-year average for all your subtests, and then find the one that has the lowest 3-year average. And this was the one. All the other ones were, 5%, 10%. We had one that was like 19% growth for the average. So this is the one that we chose. And we also chose it for another reason. This is 3rd grade, and computation with base 10 numbers is very important. They need to know the concepts of adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing, because now in 3rd grade, they're going to be introduced to doing the same operations with fractions. And so to have those skills down and to have a conceptual understanding of those operations as they go from whole numbers to fractions and even decimal numbers, we felt like it was very important to make sure that we're on top of that. So that's our first goal. And like Katie said, we have a second goal as well. Okay, and that's to do the same thing for first grade students, to focus on computation, where computation really takes a strong hold in understanding, adaptive fluency, and strategic competence with our first graders to get them going and thinking along those things. So again, looking at the 3-year average, starting really high, 72% for 22-23, 70%, 68%, and then our end of year averages are still pretty high as well. You can see for 24-25 last year, we went from 68 to 67. Okay, and then just a +1 average over the 3 years. Okay, so what are we going to do about it? We're excited about this. We really want, like Amy said a few minutes ago, we really want to build the capacity of teachers to help kids understand, build the conceptual understanding, and share the ownership in learning with our students. So we did this with 4th and 5th grade last year, and it made a tremendous difference, especially in the 4th grade. We're going to work with teachers 1, 2, and 3, and also kindergarten as well, to update our coherence maps and learning progressions. So that for every priority standard that we have, regardless of the grade, teachers have these resources right in front of them. On the left-hand side, they have a learning progression that they can share with their students. That's in student-friendly language that outlines the learning intention for that particular standard and the steps by step, or the steps that the students will take in meeting that success criteria, exactly what they need to learn. In the middle column, we have, those will be links to tier 1 and tier 2 instructional resources that teachers can tap into, along with the USBE core guides and the Nearplots that we just got from UEN and iReady. And then on the other side, we learned something very valuable from the 4th and 5th grade. Assessment is a very powerful instructional tool. Kids learn by taking assessments. And if you look at the research, the more assessments they take, the more they learn from their experience and from their mistakes. So we're asking every teacher to give at least 3 ways, or have kids demonstrate using 3 different ways of demonstrating their knowledge. And we're outlining what they can do right there in that last column. And to not only just take those assessments, but use it as a learning process. And you can see that they're varied, right? It's not quiz 1, quiz 2, quiz 3, quiz 4, okay? But different ways to reach so that every kid has an open opportunity to demonstrate what they know and to learn from that experience. And this is what we're going to be doing with our, like I said, K1, 2, 3 primary math instructors throughout this year. It's going to take some time. I don't think this will be done by the end of the year, but the learning progressions with our goal is to have those done, and then for year 2, finish off the other 2 columns.
So how, we've had this huge literacy, we had a conversation 2 weeks ago or so around how to define, we've got some defined Friday afternoons with our teachers when the students are gone, for professional development, PLC work. And one of the realizations we had is in grades 1, 2, and 3, in all 4 of our schools, math is taught through the DLI side.
Yeah.
Those teachers are not involved in our literacy trainings because they're not delivering the English language arts curriculum. So these teachers are ripe for some additional professional development that John and Ann Wallace, the DLI specialists, are going to push into the schools and support this work through those teachers. So we're not pulling other teachers away. We'll have them do some cross communication to make sure that the teachers who are not present that do teach math in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade are still getting the benefit of their learning, but we're really going to have them be the leads on this, because they're kind of an untapped group right now. So we had that realization, proposed the idea to the building principals. They thought it was a fabulous place to go, and so that's what we're going to continue to work on. So we're hoping that our math scores are not, I'm not going to say neglected, but they're not on the back burner and things like that. So it really is an opportunity for us to leverage all of the support systems that we have. So,
Go ahead.
I just have one final question. On all of this scoring that you're doing is based on the Acadian's curriculum?
Yeah.
it's an assessment, it's a diagnostic assessment, it's not a curriculum.
Okay, and so is that, you intend to keep that for the next 5 years or 6 years?
That's a state's decision. Just like RISE is the state's test for
Yeah.
grades 3 through, well, it's gonna be 3 through 9 now. Acadience was identified at the state level as being the literacy and math for the early learners for K-3. So, and if they change, we will have to change, but at this point, I don't anticipate that.
I just think the impact on teachers has got to be tremendous to go to some other learning model, or, you know.
And this is just, these are really quick screeners. You work with the student. I mean, when you give an Acadience test,
It's like a minute or 2 minutes at a time.
yeah, for a
That's how
self-test,
quick they
if
are.
a student is with the teacher, sometimes they can do it in a whole group setting because it's a paper pencil piece, so. Yeah, it's really low impact on the time, so.
So two questions. One, how do you explain the reduction beginning of year to end of year? And two, I'm just curious how you.
We've regained this one.
Yeah. I'm curious how you feel about the goals, right? You sort of hinted a little bit of the goals you want to do with the state, but how, like, are they, do you feel they're enough of a stretch without being too much of a stretch? Like, how do you feel about the goals that we're setting?
Me or, yeah. Okay. So,
Well, and I asked with.
yeah, for example, if we go Tricia,
67, why is it
number
69?
one, right? Yeah, so 69 to 67%, again, 69 starting, so here's the reality about testing in general. There's always gonna be, and I'm not trying to BS anybody, but here's the reality, and I shared this information with the K1 through T teachers. There's always a reliability coefficient, right? Okay, so for even the ACT will say, hey, you can take the ACT, that's your assessment score, whatever it may be, 27, but does it measure your true knowledge of what we're trying to assess? No, we're like 3 points off in both directions. Okay, what we consider a margin of error, like for example, in polling. So I'm not too concerned if there's a -2, because what that tells me is that, all right, 69, okay, maybe that was off by 2 percentage points or 3 percentage points, and maybe the true score was a 67, okay, or even below that, or even just slightly higher than that. I'm not saying that that's satisfactory. That's why we have the action plans that we have in place, right? That's why we have, hey, we still want to build the capacity of teachers so that this doesn't become a trend. Because in all the other areas, we're seeing tremendous, like I said before, 5%, 10%, even a 19% growth in the other areas. So this, catches our attention and say, computation is what we need to focus on. And I think we have the right methods in place to address that, so it doesn't become a repeating factor.
And then how do you feel about the goals generally? I mean, obviously, it's easy to sit here and say, well, why do we only want
I'm glad you asked.
2/3 of students to be, why is it 100%?
So going back to our previous goal, the one that you saw for 24-25, and we had the 8% for literacy and the 5% for math. Even the state, USBE will say, hey, when they give us recommendations, your percentage is too high. So they'll give us a range. For example, when we do an increase like this, they'll say 1 to 3%, that's what you can realistically expect. So choosing a 2% increase or a 1% increase, they say 1 to 3, that's realistic. Okay, then they say 3 to 5, oh, that's audacious. Yeah, that's a stretch. And then they have anything of a 5+. You must be a superpower or superhuman or something like that. But they really give us guidelines there to see what's realistic in terms of setting these percentages.
They also talk to us about growth goals versus maintenance
Yeah.
goals versus, depending on what your data is looking at or looking like. So once you can kind of analyze, do you need a growth goal in this situation, or do you need a maintenance goal? And it's really nice. It's very well supported because we do the pre-work ahead of time, and then they do a Zoom call where they kind of run you through whatever's new or updated. And then you submit your plan for feedback, and if they approve it, then it comes to you guys. If we need to make any adjustments, we could resubmit. But at this point, I think we're excited about a year 2 of our literacy stuff, even though it's not represented in the plan anymore. It is obviously still being measured and followed and tracked. And then our work with the math, support in 1st and 3rd grade this year, so.
And we're following that cohort of 3rd graders.
Yeah, very much so.
Very much following those groups to meet the literacy goals.
You guys made a liar out of me.
Great question, so thank you.
I do want to acknowledge the heavy lift teaching and learning is taking on between year 2 of K3 curriculum adoption or curriculum materials. And then this year arts and letters for 8. And then there's new math standards that John is working on, standards-based reporting, AI, the list goes on and on and on. So they're carrying a heavy load and doing it well.
Well, and we tend to introduce a formal PCBL structure in the elementary school starting next month. So we're really excited about bridging what the secondary has been doing for the last couple of years. And they're learning and bringing it into the elementary spaces. And each of the specialists, Katie, John, Annie, Gina, Brett, will all be embedded with a school site as a direct support to the principal and coach there for that work. So we're really trying to be in the schools and doing the work alongside the teachers and the building leaders to make sure that it really does feel like it's their ideas coming forward and it's their way of interpreting that vision. So I'm excited for it. The principals are really, I think they're jazzed and ready to go about it. So it is a big lift, but I think when you're excited about it, it doesn't feel so heavy.
That's true.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. We have our consent agenda with a lot of things on it, so. We've got the regular meeting minutes from June 17th, we've got closed meeting minutes from June 17th, we've got swim team to Texas travel request, swim team to New Mexico, swim team to Idaho. Swim team to St. George, kind of golf to St. George, Knowledge Works contract, Renaissance Learning contract. Robert Merrill Company, assuming that's a contract, carrier contract, power school contract. Personnel, couple of things, July board expense report, the July board revenue report, the June 25th check register, the July 25th check register, and the special session from August 8th. Can I get a motion to?
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as read.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, that agenda is approved. Okay, moving early, we have a light. Have you heard from anybody, Lori, about wanting to make, or any of you here to make public comment? No.
You can always move on, we can back up.
Back, if anybody filters in, certainly revisit public comment. Okay, next up, student on the board report.
Hello. Good to be back.
2 days in.
To start off, going back to last year, some late in the year events we had. We had 575 people that attended, which is a little bit, lower than normal, but it was still good. It turned out to be fun. And then for upcoming events, we have our back to school assembly, which will be this Friday. And then we also have homecoming spirit week starting the week of the 15th next month. And then homecoming will be on the 20th, that Friday, I believe. And this year we are doing it at the high school, which will be the first time in 10 years. And we're hoping to make a new tradition out of it to have it keep being at the high school. And then just as a reminder, for the beginning of the year, some ongoing activities that student council does is the student pantry, which is just always available in the back of the counseling room, and it has snacks, toiletries, clothes, anything, which we are always accepting donations for. It's just a good resource for students that may need that. If it's the
Can I
same,
pause you
Yeah.
for just a second? Is that gonna move to the new teen center? Teen center?
Teen center?
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, so when the new
Yes.
wing is open, then it will be.
I'm gonna interrupt, how much use is that getting?
So currently our 2 other pantries at Jeremy Ranch and McPolin, we did a little over 12,000 items last year.
Do you have any special pantry needs right now at the beginning?
You know, I have donors, I have private donors that are funding it and we're really good right now. And then we got a huge donation from the border.
Yes, we're vegetarians.
Yes.
Is there a sense that anyone who needs it isn't getting it right now?
I think so. I mean, I have, you know, the outreach are going in, social workers, counselors, principals, nurses. So all the ones that really, you know, feel like they've got the pulse on what the students need. Not that a teacher can't go, but those kind of are the main. And then we have plenty of money to fund the one at the teen center, which will open as soon as possible.
And then
Go ahead.
we also do recycling every week, which if it's the same this year, it'll be on Thursday. And then we do new student gifts, which we are starting that this week with all of our new students. And then we're also doing outstanding student gifts, and this year we're also looking in the hallways for kind students, and then there's gonna be some new incentives, and then some new, excited about getting that going. And then I think that's really it for today.
How's the one lunch? 2 days in.
It was good. It was definitely a lot of people on adjustment, especially coming from Treasure with only 2 grades in a small kind of area, but I think people are liking the 40-minute lunch. It's nice.
And the open versus closed campus.
I won't lie, a lot of sophomores were mad, but it makes sense to me because you can't drive yet, a lot of us. So the ability to earn it, and the opportunity in second semester, I think is a great compromise. And it
So
doesn't make sense.
it's closed for freshmen and sophomores, but sophomores have the opportunity to earn it for second semester if they're in good standing. So that was a compromise the leadership team made with the understanding many of our sophomores get their license that second half of the school year.
And yogurt pouches?
We're spreading the word 2 weeks before they launch, but many of our teachers are continuing to use the calculator pouches in lieu of the yonder pouches, but right now it's educating the students, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Oh, here it is. But so far, so good.
So we'll get an update on how that's going.
Yes, next month. What's your sense of the juniors and seniors? Because freshmen and sophomores don't know any different.
Yeah, it's kind of what we know now, we're used to it. I mean, I won't lie to you, I'm not gonna say the juniors and seniors are happy about it, but I think once we get into the swing of things, then they'll adjust. And you know that people aren't actually locking their phones, but they're away, and that's the point.
Correct.
So,
That's the intent.
yeah. So I
Keeping
think
it on the
Yes. It truly is an honor system. If we don't see the phone, then goal has been accomplished.
And I think a lot of people don't really know the evidence behind it, which maybe it'll be a good idea to share that because I know I was not happy last year, but once I learned that, you know, suspensions are down, fights are down, like everything, it makes a lot more sense to me. And I think it'd be a good idea to share that with the students, but it'll be an adjustment, but I think it's good.
The author of The Anxious Generation is coming out with a book from the teen perspective. So that may be something we share with the student body.
Do you see a difference at lunch this year with the phones away?
Well, second day, I mean, the upperclassmen, they're really on it this year about having your phone away, especially with the new law. But coming from Treasure, seeing that from 8th grade to 9th grade, when we got our yonder pouches, I saw a big difference. People weren't just on their phone, we were talking to each other a lot more. And I think that was a really good improvement from the year prior.
So with the one lunch period, how are you finding people are they being able to get their lunch if they want to buy lunch?
I think so. I personally don't buy lunch, but I think everyone wants to buy lunch. I've seen school lunches around.
Yeah, it's interesting this weekend, a lot of kids are staying on campus, figuring out their schedule, they're not ready to leave yet, so the lines are a little longer. I think you'll slowly start to see those decrease. Yesterday when I was over there was one line that was particularly long, I believe it's the pizza line. But I think we'll start to see those decrease once our students get comfortable and find their friend groups to leave campus and figure out the procedure.
Is there enough seating room?
So the commons is expanded now. So we took all the lunch tables from Treasure, they're now in high school as well, so it's one big common space.
Did you get food? Did you try to buy food? Did you get food?
No, I never eaten snow. You not mystery me, I have no idea.
Maybe that's enough. Forget I asked.
And navigating the new space.
In the open house, I was definitely freaked out. I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. This all looks the same, but getting to the swing of things, it's definitely easy to navigate and it's very nice. There's a lot of natural lighting.
Yes.
There's seats in the hallways where you can work. I think it'll be really good.
Okay. Oh, employee group reports, we heard. Some folks are.
Let's see.
You guys now.
They said they couldn't.
They couldn't make it. Kristen and Joe. Yeah, Kristen Hall.
Let's see.
So they were both not able to be here.
Yeah.
They're have positive. The email is positive.
I don't see into your position.
All right, well, you're up.
Yes, yes, we can circle back if they can. So, month of August has been busy. That picture there is our leadership group. That's all of our 6 principals, our preschool coordinator, our CTE director, myself, executive director of teaching and learning, as well as executive director of student services. And we did this with the Wasatch Adventure Guide to build culture and relationships. We hiked over Richardson Flat area and did some mountain survival activities as a team. Just to get to know one another, build our relationships and improve communication amongst the greater team. So that's a picture from the top. Our mission and vision: to inspire and support all students equitably to achieve their academic and social potential. We are student-centered with a focus and emphasis on the whole child. Our students are safe, supported, engaged, challenged, and healthy. We continuously deliver efficient, effective, and transparent communication about the district. Last Tuesday, we hosted convocation, and it was a bit of a shift from previous convocations. Previous convocations would run anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. We'd bring in a speaker from the outside, sort of the keynote and highlight some things, and then we do some training. So I pulled the executive leadership team together and said, we gotta do something different. Our teachers need to be in their classroom. All they're thinking about when they're in those seats for 3 hours is all the list of things they've got to do before kids show up on the 18th. So we did it in a record time of 32 minutes. And we fed all the staff breakfast in the gym. We had hoped to do it in the new common space, but they were tidying up and getting ready for Monday. So we just did it in the gym. And the structure was really introducing executive leadership, the new leadership teams at every school. And then we did our years of service pin recognition for our employees who have been with us for 5, 10, 20, and 30 years. And then from there, each leadership team had a walk-up song. So they chose it, and it was reflective of their team, and then they had to remix it. So they had to change the lyrics to the walk-up song, and then they threw it in AI, and AI pushed that out. So we were able to play the remixed walk-up song at convocation. So AI is a tremendous tool. It's scary, but it's here and we're embracing it. We sent out a feedback, and this is the feedback we got. Overall, how engaging did you find convocation? The average was 4.5 on a scale of 1 to 5. How would you rate the length and pacing of the convocation? Average of 4.9 on a scale from 1 to 5. And how well did the convocation inspire and motivate you for the school year ahead? The average was 4.45. And sort of the keynote was the executive leadership team. I wrote the script and we shared in the delivery of that message, and we got overwhelmingly positive feedback on the message about culture and trust, risk-taking, and clear as kind. And we've got to communicate and share the load. We're one Park City. So that was the convocation. Last week, yes, Susan.
I went to the convocation just because I thought it might be fun. And after going to that and listening for 32 minutes, I wanted to teach. I did such a fabulous job.
Thank
Were you fired up for the school year?
Yeah, I was. It was really a wonderful experience listening to the teachers around me and I did not hear one negative thing. And so
I'm sure we have some substitute needs, you know?
Yes. Always use some subs.
I do what they do. I so admire them. It's a great job.
There are lots of staff that reported that felt like a pep rally. That's what
Yep,
we
they
needed.
loved it.
Felt very different from prior
Previous.
years, so I don't know how we're gonna top it next year, but we're
I
gonna
don't
get there.
Outfits.
Well, you got lots of creative folks.
Yes, yes. And on August 7th, we welcomed 18 licensed staff. And in true Park City form, we took them to Utah Olympic Park. We were in that Quinn area, we fed them. They learned all things Park City, from benefits, our instructional framework, who they can go to when they have a need. And then after that, we took them on a chairlift ride to give them a 10,000-foot view of Park City. I don't know what better way to welcome someone to Park City than providing a chairlift ride. So they were with us for 3 days. And I have to give credit to Matt Nagel, Laura Starley, and Tyler Hoffmeyer. They really planned that out and carried the load in terms of delivering for our new teachers. As well as we had a new speech language and pathologist, a new instructional coach, and they are all a part of that group. First day of school yesterday, couple minor hiccups, but nothing crazy, but it was great to see our families. Every parking lot I went, there were cars parked all over the place, families coming in. A few tears, preschool and kindergarten, more from the kids than the parents. But very honored to welcome our families back, and just the energy at Upper Hill they had. Music playing, they had a balloon arch, they had a tunnel of teachers that the kids were walking through and clapping and welcoming them. So a lot of excitement. You can see our high school students, they did their class assembly, so freshmen, sophomore, juniors, and seniors to go over rules and procedures, talk about yonder pouches, talk about the new open and closed campus. Snapshot of student enrollment. So as of yesterday, our enrollment for K-12 was 4,065. You'll notice there's an asterisk there. Open enrollment, we have a total of 191 students, and that's for all grades, elementary and secondary, because if a student starts with us in elementary, we like to keep them as they push into secondary. Preschool, we have 207 across the different sites. So our total as of yesterday for pre-K to 12 is 4,272. So we're up by 2 students from last year, and we were projected to lose 100. So we are trending in the right direction, which is a celebration. Last year, K-12, we had 4,117, and we only had 153 preschoolers. So kudos to you guys for opening enrollment, because it did make a difference.
I have a question. Do we get WPU for preschoolers or not?
We do not. That's all funded locally.
When people have.
I don't know, I'm making it.
Oh, so we don't, so that's funded, so it doesn't affect.
Kindergarten.
Well,
But-
the growth isn't on preschool, there's growth in K
No,
twelve
no,
as
no,
well.
I'm just thinking about the money that goes back. That doesn't add, those
Oh,
numbers don't
recapture.
add in the recapturing funds. Those
Yeah,
numbers
so
add
the
in.
extra K-12 students, we wouldn't get funded for those till next year,
Okay,
right? Because we're a year behind. If we happen to exceed that 4117 in K-12, then we would, get additional WPU. I don't anticipate additional this year.
okay.
So recapture will be the same, but next year there'll be an increase based on these
On the
numbers
numbers.
that we would send back less of the recapture than we would had we not had these kids.
So it's a year behind, correct? Okay.
Yeah, the WPU fund is a year behind, yeah.
Thank you.
Celebration from last year, because the AP test happens in May, but we don't get results until July. Huge success. Our pass rate this last year was 87.03. That's up from 78.58 last year. We had more kids taking at least one AP exam, and typically when more kids are taking the exam, you expect the pass rate to go down, and that was not the case. 50.9% of all high school students earned a passing AP score. 71.1 of the class of 2025 passed at least one AP exam during their high school experience. And almost all of our AP scores exceeded the state and global average for the course. A couple highlights: AP US History, a 96% pass rate, the average score is a 4.14. If you're familiar with AP, a perfect score is a 5. AP Human Geo, which is one of few 9th grade AP classes our students can take, a 90% pass rate. You can see what the Utah pass rate is and the global pass rate. AP World History was a 90% pass rate. AP Macroeconomics was 85% pass rate. Last year, so May of 2024, that pass rate was 62%. So huge gains there. And then AP Microeconomics was an 88% pass rate. So huge celebration and kudos to our 9th through 12th grade teachers and our students, as well as Roger. I know he's retired. His goal was to get to an 80% pass rate. So he surpassed his goal.
Is it the same as macroeconomics teacher?
Yes, so
Wow.
they take two tests in AP Econ. They take macro and they take micro. And he was new teaching this class 2 or 3 years ago, and he continued to make changes and tweaks to his instruction and the curriculum, and it paid off.
When was that added to the AP classes?
So it's AP economics, but they take two.
Okay.
So it's one AP
Yeah.
class with two.
Kudos to those teachers.
Yeah.
That really had course.
So AP US History. Let me think
That
here.
person deserves it.
Yes,
Serious.
US History, I believe, is Jonathan Chen. AP Human Geo, I believe it was Pete Stoughton and Tim Jeffrey. AP World History is Paul McKay. AP Macro and Micro is Dave Fiesler. And I may have left a teacher out of there, so I apologize if I missed someone. But phenomenal growth.
I love this. This is a story we need to
Yes.
tell as loudly and publicly.
Yes.
Are you getting this, Christine?
I told Caleb, good luck, 90%.
Yeah.
But
Those
this is,
teachers been teaching a long time at high school?
some have, some are within their
Oh my
first
goodness.
3 to 5 years of teaching. We had one teacher, I believe it's AP Gov, had 30 some odd 5s.
Wow.
Which was unheard of.
Yeah.
It just phenomenal what they do. And
You know, as a non-educator, I'm so impressed with this performance that we've heard about today, and this is our core job, teaching. We don't make gizmos, we teach. This is what we've got to get out in the public, just as you said, Nick. Because this is a huge shift in a very short time. I think we've got a staff of teachers and support people who have gotten the message. And the community needs to hear this loud and clear when we have performance like this. This is amazing.
yes.
And kudos to you again for all the
Thank you.
leadership.
Yeah, this is unheard of for a public high school.
Yep.
New theme for this school year is One Park City. We plugged this at convocation. We are one. We are small and we're all on the same team, moving in the same direction. You'll hear this slogan throughout the school year, where learning is personal and every path is possible. We really want to meet our kids at their level of need and help them understand that if you go to MTech and you want to be an electrician, that is phenomenal. 4-year college is not for everyone. There's multiple paths to success beyond their K-12 experience. You guys have seen these, but these are the logos we rolled out. They just look and feel so much better. We've given a culture budget to all of our schools so they can rebrand, buy swag, do banners, all of those things with their new logos. And they have been very appreciative of it. Again, no mascots changed. It was simply a logo refresh across the school district. And that is it. It's a short report for this month, but things are off to a positive start and you can really feel the energy and the commitment that our staff has brought to the school year.
Well, and thank you, because you rallied them all up to be one, and that takes a big lift, and we appreciate it, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Leadership matters.
Yes.
You know, thank you, and we went for laptop pickup and Ecker, I guess.
Oh, good. And the buildings are phenomenal. We're gonna do an open house tentatively scheduled for October 9th at the high school, do a ribbon cutting for phase 2, but expand it into CTE, so people who haven't had the opportunity to access the CTE link, they can. We just wanna tidy up some things before we invite the public in.
I passed by some electricians and what, I don't know who's in what group the other day at the end of Friday. And I thanked them for, all their hard work, and he said, we're really trying to get everything done, we work all weekend long, the hardest we can, as long as we can. So it was nice to see, the construction people feeling ownership of what the impact of their work was.
They really pulled it together towards the end. We may or may not have to light a fire. but-
Gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, thank you, Lindsay.
Yes, thank
Awesome.
you.
We're really thrilled. Next up, we've got Randy with the updated fee schedule or some of them.
Yeah, so we added 2 fee schedule items, the June meeting, you passed it on the first reading. Need a second reading here, and it'll be part of the fee schedule. And then we'll start to take the Treasure Mountain fees and consolidate them to the high school Necker based on what's needed in those schools. So just asking for a second reading on these 2 items.
So do we need to say this?
Need a motion
Oh,
to
just the motion.
approve
Okay.
those fees on second reading.
Make a motion to approve the school fees on the second reading.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and now we've got policies for post, or just one policy for posting. Policy 10090. Prohibition of corporal punishment.
Not the prohibition. When I first looked at that, it just was a policy of corporal punishment.
Yeah, so we are posting this policy as required.
And this is due to some legislation that was passed during the last session that required us to make some revisions to policy.
So you need a motion to post.
Yes.
I make a motion to post policy 10090 on prohibition of corporal punishment.
And second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, next up, we've got policies for adoption. We've got policy 2000. Student representation on the board. I think this one just made the change about.
It didn't designate that you have to be a junior or senior. It's a student based on the advisor's recommendation.
So we got rid of that. Policy 71.5 alcohol and drug-free workplace policy. Policy 7039, the remote work. Policy is very simple. Policy 7040 extra duty assignments. And policy 7084. The shine.
Formerly known as TSSP, so we have hard to fill vacancies, special ed, math, those sort of positions, they qualify for an extra stipend. The state restructured that and pushed it down to the LEA level, so we had to create a policy to monitor and determine how those funds would be allocated and for which positions.
So can I get a motion
Make a
to?
motion to adopt the policies of that. The check for any public.
We have not had any.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is anybody else? Any alibis, anybody come in,
I don't see.
tell us how wonderful everything.
Listening to this, I mean, anyone can give public.
Guys are doing great.
Comment on
Okay, well, if we seem to have gotten through all of our business for tonight, that's lovely, and then we will adjourn this meeting until our next scheduled meeting, which is September 16th.
Board retreat on the board meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
29.
Board
Do you
retreat.
need the motion to do
Yeah.
that? I make a motion to adjourn. It just has.
Got rusty over the summer.
On paper.
Right.
Aye.
Also.